The intro, or I am?
Go ahead, John.
Says, okay, I think we're live.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Good morning, everybody. This is John Sfiokla from GAI Insights. I happen to be down here in beautiful Lake Nona, Florida, where I'm at a healthcare conference. It's amazing just how much AI and generative AI is part of the future of healthcare. In any event, I'm happy to be here with our team of analysts. We are sponsored by CustomGPT.ai, a fantastic product that allows you to create your own large language models very easily and safely, and to be able to go at your knowledge base or the broad knowledge base of an LLM. And we are happy to have them as a sponsor. And I am now going to turn it over to David, who's going to take us through today's articles. David.
Great. Thank you, John. And I'm jealous of you being in Florida. I'm up in the very chilly Northeast, although we're assured by the weather folks that things will shift soon. So I don't know, I think Ankaj is having some issues. Here we go. So we're going to talk about bots. I assigned to Luda when we do start, because I know how much she loves robots. We're going to look at a paper that Stanford just released with an interesting take on how to assess the risk of open foundation models. We've got a product announcement, a partnership announcement. So it's all around the horn today, and it should be a good discussion as usual. So let's talk robots. Kick us off, Ankaj.
Thanks, David. So the first one that we have for today is from Figure. So they are the humanoid robot firm, and they have raised $675 million from the who's and who of generative AI. So Microsoft, OpenAI, Amazon, Nvidia, Intel Capital, and more.
Luda.
Yeah, I do love robots. I was pretty skeptical. I'm still wanting to see it really happen, but it's as this article says, humanoid robots are having a moment, and yeah, it's certainly coming to fruition. I had a portfolio company that worked on materials for the fingertips of the robots to handle soft things or to handle things that are breakable. I also had a portfolio company that was printing, 3D printing robots. So I'm a little familiar with this field. This one is notable. I put it as optional for our audience, just because it's not yet there, but it's happening. The company raised a lot of money at a very large valuation, 2.6 billion. They have made progress since their start in 22, and the robot is moving at 16% speed of the human. It's very fast advancement, but it's not there yet. It's happening, but not there yet. So optional.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I did optional as well. But man, I'll tell you, it's impressive both who they raised the money from and how quickly this happened. I mean, the thing, you look at Mistral, yesterday we saw, or I'm sorry, a couple days ago we saw, their ability to chase GPT-4 in 6 months and almost catch them. This thing 6 months to a biped, it's just wild, the speed.
Right, and another thing, they raised the money from all these very notable companies, but they also made deals with them. So OpenAI is building a specific model for robots. Microsoft is working with them in a different way. They are using hardware from Nvidia in specialized ways. So this is essentially a consortium to help the humanoid robots to come to fruition, and that's notable for sure.
Yeah, and Amazon obviously presents a nice training ground for them for the robots, right? Because they're primarily trying to build these for industry, as the article says. Their kind of test environment in the company is set up like a warehouse, and that's where they show people the capabilities. So yeah, it'd be an interesting one to watch, but probably, I mean, everyone agree optional for now though, but
yeah, Michael Novak, good morning, Michael, notes that, it's one of many humanoid robots, and I agree.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go optional. What do we have next?
Okay, the next one is from Energy Queensland. So they are using generative AI to transform customer billing.
Yeah, actually, we're gonna save this one for Adam because we rarely get news about Australia, and he couldn't join us today, and it's not necessarily timely, but it is interesting. So let's save this one for Adam for Monday and go on to the next one.
Okay, so next one is a research paper on the societal impact of open foundation models.
Yeah, so this was one that got put on my radar by a former colleague of mine at McKinsey, and it's kind of interesting. So they're basically it seems slightly defensive, I would say too. It seems like it's very pro open foundation models, but that's fine. So what they propose here is when we're assessing the risk of open foundation models, that something that we should be looking at but hasn't been looked at to date too much is the marginal risk. So how much more risk is at play because of foundation models that is not already, in play today. So they don't necessarily study it for very many areas yet, but they looked at two specific ones. They looked at cybersecurity and creating, content basically of like nudity and potentially like deep faking somebody else. And their kind of like current assessment was for cybersecurity that the marginal risk is actually relatively low, although they make the assumption that defenders will have the same capabilities as those that are attacking so that the systems can be used as a form of defense. For the inappropriate content, they say the marginal risk is very high because of the ease with which you can now create that as compared to the past, where you'd have to use Photoshop and you have to have a certain level of skill to be able to do that. I would say in Photoshop now, because I'm a heavy user, I would say it is now slightly easier in there probably than before because they do have some generative abilities baked in there, but I think they have some safety protocols on that. So I kind of was on the border of optional important to this one because it's not as long of a read as it looks. By the way, it says 23 pages, but it's really amounts to like 8 or 9. And I just thought it was a good summary for AI leaders of the different natures of risk, and also just kind of gives them some language, a different way to explain the risk to their leadership. So I could kind of go either way, and I wanted to hear what other people had to say about it.
Yeah, I came down to optional because I think it's it's an interesting framework and approach. It's not implemented. I think it's an important thought experiment at the beginning of risk assessment in this domain. But I would say optional for a leader.
Yeah, I also arrived at optional with a note that if you want to go deeper into all kinds of risks, this is something to read.
Anybody on the side of important? All right, I'm over.
All right. We're out of here.
We'll go optional. Next.
Okay, the next one is from Stack Overflow and Google. So they have announced a strategic partnership to bring generative AI to developers. So basically, they will be using Stack Overflow's data for that.
All right, Amanda, what did you think about this?
Yeah, so this one I would say is optional. The only thing I would note is how you could use the AI-powered features directly within Stack Overflow and Google Cloud Console. So it's just sort of an ease of use. But again, to me, this is just really a marketing announcement on this one. So optional.
Any other thoughts?
I was on important just because I agree with you totally, Amanda. It's and I usually wouldn't say important on a product announcement, but in our wins framework, software development is such a critical in the Crucible kind of task. And the other thing is that it's from one of the major providers and one of the major content folks. So I'm just thinking about they have to, if they're not already aware of this, if our AI leaders not already aware of this, they need to be. So anyway, that's what popped it up to important for me.
Any tiebreakers?
I wish I had my Barney doll. This is a Barney, in my view.
All right, all right.
Luda, were you going to say something?
Well, I don't know, Amanda. You're much more close to this. What's the market presence of Slack Overflow? I think it's quite huge, to John's point. Do you know?
You mean the amount of use? So I guess to that point, yeah. I mean, but again, I'm I'm still on the optional camp. But that is a good point, Luda. There is a large base to it.
I think you also got to, I mean, behind these deals, you've got Google Cloud in a war with AWS and Azure. And part of the negotiation sometimes is, let's do a press release and I'll give you a discount on the cloud services here. So, the fact that we've got, Tom as the CEO of Google Cloud quoted. Anyway.
Yeah.
Spoken like a true software entrepreneur.
Okay.
It was good to see Google doing something, something somewhat strategic.
Strategic and not embarrassing themselves. Absolutely, yeah. Dave. You're right.
Okay. I hear you guys. Okay. Optional.
All right. We'll go optional. I think we have one more. Oh, two more.
Yes. So the next one is from brain.ai. So they have introduced a new sort of operating model for generative AI for smartphones.
Well, did they impress you with this, or do you think it's important to know about it or optional?
I think there's a lot of interesting experimentation going on the research bench, and this is yet another one of them, and a lot of debate on what's going to happen with the form factor, but still really early and optional in my view.
Wow, way kinder than I thought. I thought this was going to be a nothing Barney burger.
Well, I was going to start there, John, but I'm trying to up on my tact.
Anybody else have any reactions to this one?
It just tells you that there is lots of various tries, and who wins, it's not clear.
This is just like the robots. There's all kind of spaghetti going against the wall, and at the end of the day, traction matters, not ideas.
I was having an interesting conversation yesterday with a woman who runs a pretty big VC firm for a very wealthy family, and she was talking to one of the folks who was saying, "Hey, AI is going to get rid of apps on the phone." And she was wondering my opinion. And I said, I actually think that's not the case. It's just going to be another layer. And, and it'll be some, I reminded her of the fact that the time that the most office paper was ever sold was shortly after they announced the paperless office, because actually laser printers, massively increased the demand for paper. And so I actually think that AI is going to allow app integration at a different level. So we may actually see more apps as you take a combination of the capabilities of intelligence and embed them into new kinds of functionality. And those functions may be coordinated by AI, and how transparent that is and how exposed that is. It's so I think it's an important trend, but to me, in the words of my partner, Paul, a nothing burger.
Yes, it will be interesting to see how this all unfolds over time. It's really kind of like a user interface question to some degree, right? Like, what are we going to be looking at from a consumer perspective anyway? Okay.
And we will see some simplification, right?
I think so.
Well, yeah, we hope so. But John is saying another layer. It's complexity.
Hope not. Is a game interface simplification? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
If I'm in a role-based game, that's a really complicated interface.
Yep.
It happens to have a story. It takes me through it. Anyway, whatever.
Well, I also don't think we know exactly what large language models on the edge or on the phone are going to lead to.
Yeah.
Is that going to lead to a single interface, an explosion of new tools?
Yeah, and this one is not that, by the way, too. It's saying that it's not running on the device.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Well,
we've got a lot of optional
optional
today. So
double optional. All right.
far, it looks like people are going to have a free weekend to read whatever they want.
No. Important. We got an important coming up here. The Microsoft CoPilot with finance.
Okay, I wondered, John. I purposely signed this next one to you. Akash, can you introduce us?
Sure. So the next one is from Microsoft. So Microsoft has now announced a Copilot for finance as well. It already had a Copilot for sales.
John.
It's kind of gratifying to see this thing, because when I taught the first AI course at Harvard Business School in 1986, Anderson Consulting was building a thing called Financial Statement Analyzer, which did exactly this. Anyway, so here we are, 40 years later, 38. But I think it's important because, it's a product announcement, but for the same reason I made the case for Google and Stack Overflow. Look, people, it's amazing. I know Dan Bricklin pretty well, the guy who invented the spreadsheet, did VisiCalc before Lotus, before Microsoft. He lives in Newton. And turns out that over half the stuff in spreadsheets is non-numeric. So people use spreadsheets for everything, for finance and everything. The fact that they can go in here and help you automate, budgeting, variance analysis, all that other stuff, such a critical function. Everybody's got a finance department, from your, local ice cream store to, General Dynamics. I think it's critical, that people understand where this is. And I think actually this for me is going to be one of the key areas. This and customer service is going to be the two key areas that AI really takes the next level up in the enterprise, I think. So I think it's essential. I think it's important. If they had some case studies and data and stuff, I'd make it essential.
Any other thoughts?
I could be swayed. Go ahead, Paul.
Please go ahead, Amanda.
I was going to say I could be swayed to this one, John, for important, only because I think the Stack Overflow, to Luda's point, yeah, there's a large amount of developers, but this is less of the developer and more of, I think, a wider use case. So I think on this one, I could be swayed for important.
I'll make the case for important. We are helping 4 or 5 companies with employee education and upskilling. And we have a company that doesn't want to roll out AI training on ChatGPT because AI is coming in Einstein, their CRM tool, and they don't want to train the reps in 2 tools. Every finance person I know, their life is in the spreadsheet. And so I think if you're an AI leader thinking about how do I accelerate productivity gains in Excel-centric functions like finance, this is an important one to be aware of and starting to advocate, because it's going to be within the tools they love.
Yeah, and not to be too Machiavellian, but who usually do you have to go beg money from? The finance department's in there somewhere. Might as well show them productivity in their own backyard.
Right.
That's right. I feel it. I part of me too was hoping this shows like a great sign of confidence by Microsoft, right? I mean, this is like, when you've got a tool that is being criticized for not being 100% accurate all the time, although we know that's inherent to the way it works. This is a critical area. If you're going to use this and report a financial statement or pretty much anything you're going to do with it is going to be really critical to be accurate, right? So let's hope that this is a sign that Microsoft feels like super comfortable with the way that they have mitigated some of the issues with large language models.
David, Michael's got a good question online there. Did you see it about the IP?
I see. Will Microsoft provide IP guardrails for this product like they do for ChatGPT? I don't know. It doesn't say that in this article. I didn't see anything.
I was going to chime in and say that finance professionals will be very skeptical because of that reason. I think the Microsoft is bullish and announces this great, but I think the uptake might be slow. They fight all the new stuff royally, even though they like productivity, but they will be very skeptical. So I was actually with Amanda. I was optional, but I can be swayed into important saying, look, Microsoft is behind it. They're introducing it. It's worth a try. And if it's not that, there will be others that will come Yeah, and I think finance professionals will be under siege.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm curious when. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
yeah, I mean, the use case I saw that at least for me resonated was, here's a data set on income statements. Create 5 different graphs that show the trend here, and boom, it creates 5 graphs, and then the non-graphic oriented finance person can pick visually which one rather than spending the time going through.
Yeah, but see what, again, the reason I still maintain that it will be very slow, because finance function is like doctors. They're so specialized. There is a department and they take these functions and they essentially assign it to the low level folks. How it will play, I don't know. So
That may be true in the established companies, Luda, but having driven,
all of us know, right?
having driven a bunch of consulting teams and stuff, and worked with private equity, they're going to be all over this like white on rice. You kidding me? Then when I had a consulting team working 20 hours a day for
Yeah.
a month straight, they're going to be up to this, and they're up to their eyeballs in this. And the young kids who are going to work for PE firms are working 100 hours a week doing this stuff. I mean, they're going to be on.
No, that's true for SMEs and PEs and the like. Yeah.
But Luda, Michael agrees with you though. Michael online agrees that some portion of the finance world is cautious. So
yeah. Michael's never had to buy like 20 pizzas for 27-year-old consultants staying up all night doing this stuff.
Yep.
And
in nature in general, right? We're not exactly in love with like change with things like this, but then once we do it, sometimes it becomes like you're doing thing that you don't want to change, right? So we'll see, we'll see how it rolls out. All right, great discussion today as always. We almost made it through with nothing optional, but we have settled on important for the CoPilot for Finance release. Everything else we said, skip it this week. So enjoy your weekend, everybody. Any announcements on your end, John or Paul?
A couple things. We've got finally have improving our website execution. So we do have an email collection capability for people who are listening, would like to receive the daily email summary of this. That is now available on the website. You can sign up for that. And we have our learning lab on Monday at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern. And I am, and Chris Brock from Chat GPT for Business and Life was a 250,000 person Facebook group on Chat GPT. We're presenting some ideas and tools they have to help Gen AI learning.
Very good. And going forward, we can drop the link to that email sign up into the chat so people can easily sign up. So we'll start doing that on Monday. For
sure. Just one last thing. I just would like to take a absolute bazooka to the Gartner hype cycle, and let me tell you why. I'm down here at this Lake Nona Forum. This wave of AI and generative AI, it may get overhyped for certain things, but for if you go back to our wins framework, for people who are in the crucible or holding a lever, stuff is happening now, and this is not a hype. This is a transformation in the economy. And so I would just like to take a full broadside shot at the Gartner hype cycle, because it's the wrong way to think about this problem.
All right, we end on a spicy note. Everybody, have a good weekend. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Bye-bye, and thanks, Custom GPT.